Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Welcome to today's webinar where we will be exploring the topic, the challenges and solutions, let's help our fathers. My name is Tolu Adeosun, and I'm your host and an assistant secretary of Voice of Men 360. I am also a registered social worker, and it is my great pleasure to host this webinar today. Thank you, Voice of Men 360, for giving me this opportunity. So we hold these weekly webinars to create awareness on topics such as this, with the hopes of sharing valuable information with our community as we believe will be useful in some ways. Before I introduce our special guest today, I want to give you a brief introduction of Voice of Men 360. So Voice of Men 360 is a nonprofit organization founded in 2020, and it's based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 is an organization that was born out of seeing the tremendous needs of boys and men in society. So it decided to step up to support and help them in many areas of their lives. We are part of International Men's Day, which is a global organization. International Men's Day is based on 6 pillars, which has to do with the overall well-being of boys and men. It has been around for 21 years and is celebrated in nearly 90 countries. These countries join together to do various activities on a regular basis. As mentioned earlier, today's webinar topic is the challenges and solutions, let's help our fathers. And our special guest speaker is Rhondall, who is a businessman and social activist in Trinidad and Tobago. He is currently the vice president of the Trinidad and Tobago Automotive Dealers Association, founder and president of the Single Fathers Association in Trinidad and Tobago, and father of 2 sons. In 2014, he was appointed by then Prime Minister, the Honorable Kemla Persad Bissar, to serve as a member of the Child Protection Task Force. Mr. Fields and the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago for the last 10 years have partnered with the key governmental, non-governmental, and private stakeholders to raise awareness, advocate for legislative reform, provide legal advice, and offer family counsel and welfare support to families across Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to welcome Mr. Rhondall Fields today. Welcome. Oh, we can't hear you.
You hear me now? Can you hear me now? Nice.
Oh. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm blessed to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. How is the weather out there in Trinidad and Tobago? That's my first question.
Well, it's sunny and nice, I can tell you that. No signs of coldness at all on this end.
That's nice. It's here for us, it's gray and it's rainy, and so we're really, I'm kind of jealous and envious of the weather you have going on there right now.
I could understand that.
Thank you for joining us. And it sounds like you've been up to a whole lot of good and trying to help single fathers out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, fathers on the whole, we actually are undergoing a name change. I mean, it's been announced nationally already. We've changed to the Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago actually from the beginning of 2021. In the last decade, we've been advocating for, not only single fathers, but fatherhood generally. A lot of the inequities that are surrounded around it also, and a lot of the needs and desires of even custodial fathers or custodial parents who in numerous cases have felt some level of inequity or face some level of bias or shortcomings, some systemic shortcomings somewhere along the lines. So for the last 10 years, we've been advocating generally on fatherhood and encouraging good fatherhood as well. The norm throughout the entire world is always the perception of the deadbeat father. And that's something that we wanted to challenge. And we wanted to show that there are good fathers in existence. There are boys who have become fathers, who didn't have fathers, who are stepping up and who are willing to be good fathers at this point in time. So I think that's something that we needed to get to the fore, to get put out there, because that ghost, so-called ghost, I would say, for lack of a better description of deadbeat fatherhood has haunted us for far too long.
Yeah, you're correct. And there's a lot that we're going to cover today, and I'm looking forward to you sharing more about your knowledge and about talking about breaking this the cycle of deadbeat fathers. And so I look forward to what you have to share with us today. Now, can you just take me back to your experiences in your childhood or adolescence where you can say that maybe it led you down this path, or you became aware of maybe single fathers?
Yeah, definitely. My mom and dad were separated when I was about the age of 11. Um, that's when I was entering the secondary school. I think it's the equivalent of high school to you guys across there. And it was, I mean, I was just preteen. It was an important part for a young man to want to be involved in his, I mean, father's life. A lot of your achievements into your transition from boyhood to manhood, stuff like that. So growing up as a young boy, particularly at the preteen age, there's a lot of times, and I mean, you love the mommy, you know, mommy did everything that she could to raise you to be a good citizen. But there were some things that mommy, whether it be biologically, whether it be mentally, emotionally, that mommy couldn't relate to you because mommy wasn't a man. So, I mean, there was always that need, that gap to have that male figurehead there. And it's something that I realized that I would have lacked at some point in time. And it then made me as a boy make a personal vow that I would be there for my children, particularly if I had sons. I would definitely be there. And I would definitely, sorry about that, I would definitely make sure that I had a pertinent part of their life. I wanted to be involved in their every daily life. I wanted to be a part of their memories. I don't want them to remember me not being there, because those are the memories that haunted me. The achievements, the accolades, all those things you receive, and daddy's not there. It's good, but I mean, it's not as good as it should be. So those are feelings I didn't want them to ever have. So as a young man, and a lot of young men who didn't grow up with fathers, I can tell you, we purpose to become good fathers because we are the generation, as I said before, who grew without fathers and therefore understand the significance of having the presence of their father there. Whether even if your father is still a part of the family and is just inactive, we understand the value of a father's meaningful involvement in his children's life.
So your quest to be involved in your children's life, regardless of whether you stay married to the mother or mothers, and seeing how it was as your dad was not present in your life growing up, led you to this path.
Correct, correct. That's primarily the fact that I grew without having my father there. And I mean, there was a court order as well actually stopped him. Not a court order, a visitation per se, but he and my mom, he was physically abusive to her at some point. So there was an order of protection against a protection to, from him towards us. So that order would have another would stepped in the way of visitation also at that point in time. So whereas I mean I did understand what he did to my mom was wrong. I mean I did understand. Sometimes as a young child I felt bad as well. The thing that hey I see my father doing something wrong. I know it is wrong. I despise it, but I still love him and I still missed him and I still wanted to be a part of his life. So then you as a child thrown into the conundrum of am I being disloyal to my mother because a scene was taking place with her as well. So what I'm saying is that even though I was glad that she was being protected now, I still wanted to be able to have a functional relationship with my father.
Yeah, so you had this inner turmoil, conflict with reconciling the fact that you love your mom and you didn't want your mom to be abused by your father, but the fact that you acknowledge that you needed your dad as a father figure in your life.
Correct, correct. Because I mean, primarily when he was there, he gave good advice. He gave good instruction and leadership. He's one of the persons that taught me never be a follower, always be a leader. And these were things that I kept with me even when he in his absence. And it was a pivotal part of me becoming successful later on in life. So I mean, it as I said, it was a two-prong. You understand? You feel like hey, mommy needs protection, but I need daddy too. So I think that's something that we often need to consider that. I mean, if sometimes, and I've heard many people say sometimes a man may not have been the best husband, but he's been a good father regardless. So I mean, it's something that we need to consider when we really deal with protection orders. Once the child is still safe, once the child and the father has a good functional relationship, possibly daddy yes needs help for some other thing, some other issue. But once the child is safe and they can continue to have some good or safe relationship, it should be encouraged and fostered.
Yeah, and I do believe that is some of the work you've been doing, because you mentioned you're not just about single fathers; you're also about helping fathers to, to develop and improve in their lives. And so I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But can you tell me what led you to start the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago?
All right. What happened is my personal experience. And I mean, pitching off at all that emotional stuff I would have just mentioned to you there. Fatherhood to me from a child was a very, very important or pivotal part of where I saw my life in the future. I had to be a good father. I had to be able to, I mean, be there for my children when I were to have one or have two as I have. And at that point, my ex and I, based on, I mean, there was religious differences actually. We weren't allowed to be together. We were both young at that point in time. And she became pregnant even after we separated. Because, I mean, we still had feelings for each other, and she conceived after. And so now we had a child, we're not together, and we're trying to figure that out. So, with that high level of an experience, the only thing, and at those times, there was no Single Fathers Association, there was no proactive approach to even educate younger people before they get into relationships. Yes, they may have had organizations, but I mean, they weren't well advertised. So that the first line of approach everyone thinks about when you're having, when you're disjointed and one party isn't getting to see the child and you feel parentally alienated, you think the first place you need to go to is the court, because I mean, that's what you're seeing on the television. That's what everyone speaks about. Go to the court, and that's the only place you could get access. And I think that's what led me to the court system, trying to get access to my child, to my son at that point in time, because it was a little, at that point in time, adversarial, little bad blood there. So get into the court system at the magistrate level, and this is actually what showed the inconsistency in the systemic process. Because at the magistrate courts level, the magistrate actually empathized with me, and so I just everything I told you, I told her, and I explained the value to me personally and the value that I would be to my son, seeing that I grew without a father. And she gave me an extraordinary amount of access from his age of 6 months to 4 years. I had him every other day. So mommy had him one day, I had him the next day. And his mom, by the time he got to 4 years old, she was upset about it. She thought I had too much access, and she went to the family court, which was at that point in time championed as the the best thing ever for family. And getting to the family court was where actually my access was then turned from every other day. It was turned on its head to every other weekend, which was actually 4 days for the month.
Mhm.
And I mean, I couldn't stand for that, because the opportunity the magistrate gave me wasn't only to be a father, it helped me develop value as a man, to realize that at 6 months I had to do everything mommy had to do. I had to change pampers, I had to I had to feed him, I had to burp him. When he's getting stomach pains, I had to go get her over, go treat him just like she would treat him. So I had that opportunity, thanks to that magistrate, to have that level of intimate bond with him from babe, 6 months to 4 years old, and that early natal stage, personal natal stage, sorry. I was able to have that bond as a father. So to me, you coming to tell me at 4 years old now that I am no longer needed, or I am less important, I don't have the significance I had previously. That was a blow to my face. I broke down in tears in the court, literally tears, 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 tears. Because I thought that at the court, the family court per se, I would receive, they would understand what I meant when I explained that the value that he meant to me, the value that I meant to him. And it just wasn't there. It was the president for custodial, non-custodial parent was every other weekend, and they believe that's how it should be. Because I eventually did law, so I understood the principles of stare decisis and these things, that all men must be treated fairly. So it's sort of unfair to give me more than what the normal precedent is. And that's when I decided to form Single Fathers Association, and I mean, challenge and create some avenue at that point for fathers who felt like they would be treated, and who didn't only feel, but were really treated unfairly at the court system, that they expected to get better justice.
Mhm. Okay, wow. So you were there for your son from 0 months, zero, sorry, well, six, you got joint custody, I guess, from 6 months to 4 years. And at that point where the son is more aware of his father or any parent or any adult in their lives, when you could have made even more impact, that's when it was being taken away from you. And so you were trying to fight for that. And you mentioned that there was a precedent that men didn't usually get much custody time with their kids. And so it seemed like it would have been unfair for the court to award you more time with your kid, even though that was what you had before. So, and then from there, you say you birthed this Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. So, speaking of the role a father plays in a child's life, do you believe the role of the father is as critical as the role of the mother in the development and well-being of a child?
Oh, yes, definitely. I would say for both a man and for both a boy and a girl. I mean, people would tell you, and people say it lightly. When you hear people say a father is a girl's first love and a father is a boy's first hero, that's a very, very, very strong and true statement. And I think even for girls too, daddy is the hero. Daddy is the one that you expect. And rodent comes into the home, daddy goes out and kill it. Some intruder in the home, daddy puts himself out first. And not only because of that, but also the way fathers interact and mothers interact are entirely different. And together, it's a perfect cohesion. So you need that. You need that. You need that. Mommy is one way, daddy is one way. Mommy may be another way, daddy is another way. And it for some reason, though it's different, it seems that once you have it together perfectly in your family, it harmonizes. There's a perfect harmony. So even after you all decide to separate, that is still relevant. That is still important. And that's why I continue to tell people that if your intimate relationship ends, it is still very important that you all forge a parental partnership so that that child understands that even though mommy and daddy may not coexist in the same space anymore, that home, because home is not the building, home is that connectivity between mommy, daddy, child. And we still have respect for each other, we still have love for each other. We could still sometimes go out on outings together without any animosity or any issue. And we're still going to be at your graduation together. We're still going to be at your cricket games, your basketball games. And I see these things because I involve my sons in sport. We play cricket here, all right? I guess you guys might play baseball on that end. But I see that with my sons. There's a level of confidence and strength, particularly young boys. I mean, as a boy, as a man, I could speak as a boy. I'm sure women may have their side of testimony to that too, the confidence they get from their dads. But when I speak to my boys, sometimes when they step up to bat at that wicket, and I know his talent, I know his potential, and I see he misses a ball, and I can look at his face and sense that he's fearful, I would call his name. I would say, Nathan, Jaden, daddy's here. I don't even have to say daddy's here. Let's have to say the name. Look up, son, and you will see the level of it's amazing. They don't see it, but you, knowing what you've done, look at them and see the level of confidence. It's as similar as, sometimes when you speak to your pet and they put their ears, it's like you see their eyes light up to know that, hey, I have somebody backing me. I have somebody who watching my back out there. I could do anything. And that's so important for children to have that level of confidence in their parents, to know that their parents are there with them, to know that their parents are supporting them, to know that they're not alone. And that's where the issue is. When children feel alone, so this applies to even parents who live in the same space. When children feel that they're not supported, feel that they feel alone, feel that they're not confident, they have no confidence at all because of the lack of support or the lack of encouragement of their parents.
Wow. So yeah, you understood from an early age how important it was for a father to be involved, and you've done that. You've been involved. You supported your children. You've let them know that you are there. And I love what you said. A father is the girl's first love and the son's first hero. It's funny because I never heard that part about the hero before, but that totally makes a lot of sense. So for your kids, you wanted to be your sons, you wanted to be there for them, you wanted to be involving, you weren't going to back down. Now, there is this concept called parental alienation. It's something that I'm a bit familiar with, and I've actually dealt with it in my practice with some single fathers I've worked with. Can you tell us more about what parental alienation is?
All right. I think parental alienation takes different levels. It's anytime one party, I would say forbid, or even if just not forbid, tries to make it difficult for the other person, the other parent, to have, reasonable or good access to their children. So it could happen in a number of ways. And I mean, sometimes it happens directly, um, pre-internet, pre-court system, where one party has the child in their possession and is not allowing the other party to have the child. This is sometimes what leads people to get to the court. I also believe it happens post-court system, because some people would have gone to court, would have gotten court orders, and then the court order has been breached by one party for one reason. And then the system is feeling where there's no real consequence for breach of access and these kind of things. So because these things, the system doesn't address it, it's allowed to perpetuate. And then I think also, as what would have happened to me, I think even the system itself can play a big role with some of these orders being made. The courts themselves, by making poor orders when it comes to access for the non-custodial parent, because it could happen mother, father, any which way. For the non-custodial parent to not have reasonable access to their child, you make an order where a dad or a mom gets to see the child, once the child, and this happens sometimes with parents that are safe, not even parents that are danger or risk to the child. They get 2 hours access for a week or 1 day access for a month and stuff like that. So I think it's any part of the entire spectrum where one parent is being forbidden that proper access or reasonable access to their child. People, when they hear parental alienation, they think it only seems to happen between ex-spouses and stuff like that. But I see even the system and the orders the system makes can parentally alienate a child from their father or their mother. So it's something, once the child is safe, I think the system needs to reflect that, hey, we are supportive of both parties being equally involved, both parties having reasonable and good access to their children.
Mhm. No, and that's really important that you're pointing out that it's not just the parents or even maybe grandparents, but it's also the larger system. It's a systemic problem. And so let's talk more about the differences between the types of custody, because I hear all the time sole custody, joint custody, shared parenting, or shared custody. Joint custody is the same thing. So can you tell me, is there also a difference between shared parenting and joint custody? And I believe that there's some laws around this in Trinidad and Tobago that might be a bit different than here in Canada.
Right. Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, sole custody, custody in Trinidad and Tobago is the person that makes the decisions. So sometimes, for an example, it means you can have joint custody and have terrible access to your children still, have very bad access. It just means that you're going to be able to play part of the decision factor of what religion, where the child goes to school, the medical issues, stuff like that. That's what custody means here, right? If it's sole custody, then the person that has sole custody makes all the decisions without consultation at all with the other party. So many times you see sole custody being awarded, it always, however, is accompanied to care and control. Care and control in Trinidad and Tobago is who the child would reside with, who the child lives with. We have that Westminster system, that English system. So it's who the child would reside or spend most of their time with. So even having you can have joint custody, as I said before, and then have terrible access, meaning the same every other weekend or even worse than that, because joint custody. So a lot of people would go into the courtroom here in joint custody and think, well, okay, I have joint custody. It means I'm going to get to see the child equally. I'm going to get as much access to the child as the other party. No, it's not that. So this is why we see the value of shared parenting, because shared parenting now is not only dealing with sharing custody, it is with sharing care and control. And this is something that we've gone to the Joint Select Committee about. We've gone to a number of institutions. Just give me 1 second there. Some came up on my screen. So this is you guys seen me?
Yeah. Well, on my end, you're frozen right now, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Hello?
give me 1 second there. Yeah, you seen me now? All right, I got you back there. Sorry about that. Yeah, as I was saying, um, it's shared parenting is now we try now shared parenting introduced here. It's been introduced in other parts of the world. It's where you now share the custody to make the decisions, and you share that access, that physical custody, where you now would have possibly 1 week by mom, 1 week by dad, and we see that so beneficial. We have so many issues when it comes to child payment, maintenance, payments, and stuff like that. We see these issues of sharing the children in that equal way, eliminating the need for even a maintenance issue where it's now going to encourage mom and dad to be able to now co-parent better, even financially, where they split all the bills. When babies by me, I deal with everything. Babies by you, you deal with everything. If it's medical, if it's educational, then we split across the center. So it helps foster and engender a better working system between mother and father. One, then it gives that custodial parent who normally gets, let's say, about 26 days. You allow them, you give them the ability to now have a social life, to pursue a possibly promotion at their jobs, to better their education. A lot of things. A lot of people go to court and fight for custody. And then when they get the realm of custody and care and control, and all the issues are on their end because they have the child primarily, sometimes the rest of their life is cut out unless they have a very strong extended support system that comes in and helps with them. So, if you still need an extended system to help your extended family member, whatever, who's better than the father? Who's better than the other parent or the mother? So, this is why we have been championing shared parenting in Trinidad and Tobago. We've been called to many a joint select committee before Parliament. We've ventilated this, the value and significance of having shared parenting here, because we believe this is what will be in the best interest of the child. We believe that one parent visiting for 4 days a month, of the child being allowed to visit 4 days a month. To remember, it's not only, let's say daddy is 90% the non-custodial parent here. So daddy has a mother, that's granny. Daddy has a sister, that's auntie. Daddy has a brother, that's uncle. They need to be able to experience life with their paternal side of the family as well. So this is why we think it's better for balance. It's better for the mental health of the child. It's better for in every which way, we believe shared parenting would be the best thing in Trinidad and Tobago.
Mhm. So I love what you said there. You said it's in the best interest of the child. So it's not about the mother, it's not about the father. It's what is best for the child. And so that's the one thing that it sounds like, you guys are trying to encourage parents to keep in mind when it comes to shared parenting. Now, is that actually a ruling now in the court system in Trinidad and Tobago, the shared parenting?
No, we have seen it. We did do a study ourselves. It was a project that we partnered with the Emancipation Support Committee that was sponsored by the European Union. And the data show that they have done it, but in just 2% of the cases, these orders were made. They did set a precedent. So I'm guessing that since a precedent has been set, if lawyers are aware of these precedent and these cases, if they're good enough for their salt, they would be quoting these cases that they be trying to get you want to get joint, in other words, care and control, as we've seen it issued to other persons before.
So you mentioned this. There's a project, a collaboration with the Emancipation Support Committee and the delegation of the European Union on the national project, and it was called Gender Equality and Fatherhood. Right? Can
Right.
you tell us more about that? Because I was doing a little bit of reading on it. It sounds like it was really interesting. A lot of findings that you guys that was made. Can you share a bit more about that project?
Oh yeah, definitely. This was our project we embarked upon. I think it was around 2016. I think it ended in 2018, around there. And this was a project that, actually the Emancipation Support Committee, they saw us on television advocating, and decided as a bigger community and a bigger organization that they would come out and support us because they understood the value of fatherhood. Particularly, they said even in the African community. So they would have helped us to roll the proposal to the European Union, and they were granted the funding, and we were the beneficiaries of the project. So we would have asked during that process that we had some outreach officers trained. We'd have asked for the main thing we needed at that point in time, because no one else in the country, not even the the IGDS, the gender studies. We went to them and they weren't interested in doing studies on what was taking place at the court when it comes to custody being awarded. They had no interest at all. And we were able to do this research for the first time about the custody and care and control being awarded. And as we had suggested for years, we saw it was 3 times a father and a mother coming to court on the same footing financially, emotionally, safe parents. A mother was 3 times more likely to be awarded just because she was a mother. And I mean, we was able to get that research, was able to form a multi-sector committee that encompassed our organization, the ESC, the National Family Services, all the governmental, private stakeholders that looked into the issue of parenting and parenting, single parenting, and fathers who have been parenting singly as well, not only fathers who have been custodial parents, but non-custodial parents. So we were also able to develop an app as well, a Single Fathers Association app as well. So I mean, we were really grateful to the involvement of the European Union. I think it's based on that study is why we were first called to the first JSC at 2018, where we were able to reveal a lot of the findings there, a lot of the things that needed amendment in our policy and our laws. We had issues with fathers who were custodial parents who were turned away from social services because they were male and deemed as the head of the home. So because they were male, they had to be injured to be supported by social welfare. When the vice versa, and they were told, some of them were told, had it been the mother come to us, we can help her. And on investigation, no legislation, no policy said that that was true. And we had to we got that changed. It was just on a bad culture that was there over the time period where fathers were not allowed, despite the fact that they were the sole custodial parents. If the mother had died, if the mother had abandoned the children, if the mother had left the children with the father, if he couldn't provide for himself, those children will never be able to be on public assistance.
Wow. There's so much there that you just shared with me. Like, I'm hearing stuff about you guys getting involved in trying to get policy changes with, in the legislation. You're trying to look at getting welfare for fathers. You're trying to that this project also made recommendations about parenting plans and shared parenting. So can you just tell me just a little bit more about, what were some of the other policy changes that were made or that's being looked at, and what were some of the recommendations that were made from that project?
All right. I mean, from that project, you recommended a host of things. You recommended definitely that they should be same emphasis on the breach of access as much as they did with the breach of or the non-payment of maintenance. Because for non-payment of maintenance, you can be imprisoned. But with the breach of access, you couldn't, even if with a court order, then go with the police to get access of the children. You had to go back. And you still have to go back to a lengthy process where you now apply for breach of court order. And then there's no consequence for the breach of the order. So some people don't take it seriously. We were able also to champion the electronic payment of child maintenance. So instead of fathers and mothers having to go to the court and stand up in long lines, fathers many times being emasculated by officers there, being emasculated by mothers there, because they come in to pay child maintenance is deemed as it means you wasn't taking care of your child. Even though you could pay maintenance, despite you were taking care of your child, we were able to get them to change that electronic payment, where the court now has something called the court pay system. So you could pay via credit card, you could pay, just go online, you could buy a card. Right now, you could go like to any gas station, you go to any variety store, some of these stores that are earmarked with the court, and you can buy a card and you just go and you top up your maintenance without having to go to the court. And this way has proven to be in a more efficient way, because now maintenance is even getting there faster as well, without persons have to disrupt their work, disrupt their day, without having to wait for a bottleneck system as well. We would have also made recommendations on false allegations. There's been a number of fathers as well who would have won custody, and in order for the other party to now have a claim going later down the road, they would make false allegations of a sexual nature against them, saying that they would have committed some heinous act against their children. And then when it was all discovered, the child goes through an entire rigorous social work, children authority, child protection unit, and it's discovered that nothing took place. Then it's the other parties are allowed to go free. and the father's social name, his credibility is destroyed, his connectivity with his child, because the child has been just told to say something and didn't really realize what they said until the whole investigation took place. So it's a number of things we've been able to highlight, advocate upon. We've got many of them changed, many things turned around, but there's still a lot of things that needs to be sorted out.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing good work for the father's rights and children's rights at the end of the day, right? And families' rights. And so, I hope that you guys continue to be successful in your endeavors. I just want to ask you, you keep talking about child maintenance. I take it that's the same thing as what we would call child support payments here?
Come again? Child support payment?
Child maintenance, is that the same thing as the child support payment here? Is that
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we
yeah.
refer to?
Yeah, it
Okay.
would be the same
Okay.
thing.
Okay. And is it often only fathers that are paying this, or mothers also paying it as well?
Yeah, there are
Depending.
some moms that pay it, but 95% of the time, because fathers are most of the times given the non-custodial order, they are the ones that most of the time have to pay maintenance, unfortunately.
Okay, and so then, you mentioned that the fathers don't often have access to social welfare because they're males. They think that they're the head of the family, therefore they're the main breadwinners. So, what is this social welfare for fathers with custodial rights? What is that?
The social welfare for fathers with custodial rights.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, at that point in time, as I mentioned, because fathers were deemed the head of the home, the workers there, they created an internal culture that the father did not need to be supported, or the children rather didn't need government support, even though they were destitute, even though they were poor, even though they needed it, because they deemed the father as being a man, and the man is the head of the home, and the man should be able to earn. So a lot of those children and their fathers were denied at that point in time. At that time also, there was very few of them getting stuff like grants, like rental assistance. It was always harder because the father, as the sole custodial parent, was, because he was male, they seemed to think that he could sort himself out. And I remember having to stop one particular father whose wife would have just died from cancer and had 8 children from cutting his arm off. And I had to make a Facebook live video of me intervening in that process for people to take it really seriously. And after that is when people started to understand that this was even taking place in Trinidad. People had no idea that a father who was the custodial parent, whether the mother may have died or anything, the people in Trinidad who possibly still didn't know that this took place at a point in time, were not allowed public assistance to assist those children. So it means for the last 20 years or odd years since this has been in existence, there have been children who've been left to suffer because their father was male, and that was the only reasoning behind it. So we would have sat with the heads of the department at that time, I think that was around 2017 or so, and we searched every policy, every legislation, and there was nowhere that said this. And then we realized it was a culture issue. And coming out of that joint select committee, we highlighted it again. And then the Ministry of Social Development at that time, they had to commit to a reculturing program, reculturing their staff members to view, to see the child and not the gender of the parent.
So once again, it was about the child's rights. It wasn't about looking at who is the parent of the child, but what is the best what is in the best interest of the child. And what I'm hearing was that there was a lot of discrimination and biases against the father being the main caregiver, and that they were not allowed the same privileges and welfare support like a woman would have been allowed. But it sounds like you guys are really doing good works and advocating for fathers in Trinidad and Tobago. So what I've heard today has been really encouraging, and it's good to know that there are organizations like yours that are out there trying to support fathers when they go through a process of separation from their partners, and trying to make sure that they can remain in their lives of their children. So tell me a little bit more about what you guys do to help fathers to develop and be a better father for some that are struggling in that area.
Yeah, but what we try to have a lot of uh, family-oriented events. There's an event that we hosted for the last 10 years called I Love My Community. We hosted at Christmas time. It's an event. I mean, it's so strange that fathers started something like this. It's a family event. So it's slides, bouncy castles, a lot of fun stuff. So on that day, I mean, primarily we wanted to start engendering, dad's always working, dad's always out, dad's always bringing being the breadwinner, dad needed to take a day off and come and spend time with the children as well. So it's not something that we did for dads alone. We decided as an entire family event, so dads and moms. So many a times you would see a father who possibly didn't have the child at that point in time. We would see his ex bring the child, and she come at that point in time, and the mother and the father themselves may not interact all the time, but at least the child is there with mommy and daddy. So we've been able to see those things take place. We've also been able to, we also hold a lot of consultations. But pre-COVID, we were allowed to have a lot of consultations where we'd have discussions for fathers and men with a number of different discussions. And I think one of the main things and challenges we have is that we try to know, and I think this is something we now actually looking to go into more, is to get men more proactive before they even become fathers. Because as I was speaking to a group, we have a group with about 200 men that we do a live chat once a month with as well during this COVID time. And I was speaking to some of these men, I was asking them, how many of you all for the last 10 years may have heard us speaking and now have children 2 years, 3 years, and didn't take us seriously because you weren't in that issue. You weren't in that place. So it was what we were saying was irrelevant to you until you found yourself in the problem. And I use women as an example. And I said women are superb when it comes to being proactive. They may not be the experiencing violence or abuse, but they would go and support their sister. And it's something that I think we need to see in the male community, where even though, yes, I am not a father, but at the end of the day, you need to now involve yourself, particularly because you are male and you don't know what's going to happen later on the road. So those are some of the things that we plan to move forward with, the males in the community, the younger males and so forth, so that they understand that this is as relevant to them as to those who have children already.
So you guys are building community. It sounds really good. Yeah. So thank you. And I'm sure, are you aware of any organizations here in Canada that do similar work like you do? I'm not sure if you have any ties to Canada, but are you aware of anything like this where they help fathers to maybe gain access to their kids, or anything like what you've described that you guys are doing there in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah. Not directly, but there was we were connected to a guy there through an American ally who had opened a single fathers association in America, and he had started something off in Canada, but I think he was actually imprisoned for non-payment of child maintenance, so it kind of slowed things down. So I mean, that's one thing that we've advocated for, and I mean, I think there's a better way to treat or deal with, and I've seen other small islands start to consider it as well, with non-payment of maintenance, particularly when sometimes you realize it's not the father being negligent, but he may have fallen on short times. COVID has done a bad thing, wreaked hell against a lot of men who were gainfully employed, and women as well who were gainfully employed and lost their jobs. So what are you going to do? Put them in prison because they can't make that commitment, though they want to be there, they want to be there emotionally for their children still. It's something that I really don't get it, because we put them in jail and we pay more to maintain the father in jail, and the child stays outside with no one to maintain them still. Doesn't make sense, right?
Thank you for letting us know that there may possibly be something that's kind of like you've been affiliated with in the past. But I'm sure there are organizations like yours here in Canada and other parts of the world that are trying to work with fathers to, gain more access to custody, and just to be more present in the lives of their children. So thank you so much once again, Rhondall, for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking your time to speak to us about what your association's about and what you guys are doing to help fathers in Trinidad and Tobago.
Thanks for having me. I apologize for holding the phone to charge, but I was running low on battery there. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I mean, I think these are the discussions we need to have globally, because I think a lot of us across the world are facing the same issues, and it's about our children at the end of the day. We need to see the new generation of children have a better relationship with their parents generally, both fathers and mothers.
No, thank you. And you're right. It is a larger discussion that needs to be had, and hopefully there will be more work in this area, on this area. Thank you so much once again. So before we end today, I just want to make a few announcements. Here at Voice of Men 360, we do have 4 live shows weekly. We have Open Up, which takes place on Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's sharing your personal life journey. We're always looking for guests to come and talk about their lives and what they've been through and how they've overcome. And then we also have our weekly webinar, which is what we are doing right now. It takes place on Saturdays from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have Vili, which means I in English. And that's, once again, it's another sharing your personal life journey, but it's a Tamil live talk show, and which takes place Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for people who live outside of Canada. And then we also have a panel discussion, which we do once a month, and that can be in English and Tamil as well. And we do have a podcast, Open Up, that you can participate in at your own convenience. You just find where podcast is, and also Vili as well. So we have revamped our monthly men's group meeting to be a closed group, men only, and peer led by a trained peer facilitator. And this is the new format that we are starting tomorrow, Sunday, April 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be running every third Sunday of every month moving forward. So information on how to register can be found on our Facebook page, Voice of Men 360. So please register and invite your friends to join us. This is an opportunity for only men to talk about issues that men are facing, including things like maybe fatherhood or being a single father. And so please join us. And we're always looking for new members or volunteers to join us at Voice of Men 360. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life can participate in any of our shows. So if you want to be a guest on any of our shows, or you're willing to be part of our organization and help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Our phone number, as is on the bottom of the screen, is 437-889-8329. That's 437-889-8329. Our email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. And our website is www.voiceofmen360.org. And you can also find us on all social media platforms. So we're on Facebook, Voice of Men 360. We are on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. We are hoping to reach more people and to help more people. Please continue with your support. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.